Have you heard the guidelines? Follow what the American Diabetes Association has to say about eating 5 to 6 small meals a day, and you'll for sure develop or worsen your diabetes. Having trouble managing your blood sugar doesn't necessarily have to do with how clean you're eating. And I know people are going to be like angry about that, about me saying that, but here's the deal. Anytime you eat, you produce a little bit of blood sugar. And so your system then releases insulin, and your cells can either be receptive to that or not receptive to that. The more often that your cells are bathed in insulin, the less receptive they become to it. So the more often you eat, the more often your cells are bathed in insulin, which means they become less receptive to it. Another thing that happens for women specifically is that the decrease in estrogen and progesterone with perimenopause and menopause makes them less insulin receptive. So you could literally eat boiled chicken and broccoli with just salt and pepper, steamed broccoli, and still have trouble with your blood sugar numbers. High rates of cortisol being released into the system because you're not sleeping enough and you need the cortisol for energy, because you're dumping caffeine into your system before you've got any food in you, because you're not getting outside time every day, because your body is needing that cortisol to drive you through that afternoon slump, or a sugar rush to drive you through that afternoon slump, because cortisol causes the body to release sugar into the system to give you an immediate hit of energy so that you can get through a fight or flight response. Bathes the cells in insulin, which makes them more insulin resistant. I did a consultation with a woman, I think 3 years ago now, who said, my family is the skinniest set of diabetics you will ever meet, ever. And part of their issue is that the environment that they live in and the work that they do, their toxic burden is too high. So the receptor sites for insulin are being blocked by something else because they're not detoxing appropriately. And then there are people who genetically don't have great insulin receptor sites. And what we know with those people is that we have to do things to stimulate insulin sensitivity. So we need intense exercise like weight training, because that makes the muscle tissue grow, which makes it more sensitive to insulin. We need daily movement for 20 to 30 minutes, even if that, and better if that is broken up into 10-minute increments throughout the day. There's even research studies that show that doing it in 5-minute intervals of intensity, so walking up and down a flight of stairs for 5 minutes 4 times throughout the day, has you better insulin responsive than one bout of 30 minutes of exercise. Fasting, literally. If you are struggling with your blood sugar levels and you're not sure why, my advice would be to get to a point where you can do a 72-hour fast every month, but also that you would be doing at least 12 hours of fasting every day, working your way up to, depending on if you're still a cycling female or non-cycling female, somewhere between 14 and 16 hours a day. Men, you could go as high as 20 hours a day, but you still need to be getting enough energy for the day from food that you don't have to rely on cortisol. I would recommend that you do a complete sugar and caffeine detox. And a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but it's going to be better for your overall health. Take a weekend and don't use a single electronic device except for maybe your stove. On your phone, turn off all notifications with the exception of the ringer for important people only. You don't need spam calls, but only put it on Do Not Disturb and only let those people who you might need to be contacted for in case of emergency contact you. But then also, don't carry your phone around with you. set it down on a table like it's a house phone. And in most areas of the United States, it is currently light enough early enough and light enough late enough that you shouldn't even turn on a house light. If you have the option to do 24 hours to 48 hours of silence while you're also doing this electronics detox, the amount of benefits to your health will be so immense, you won't know what to do with yourself. And if you have young kids and you're worried about the appearance of not eating dinner with them, still sit down and have the conversation with them, because that is important, but also explain to them, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my health, and one of the things that I've been advised to do is fast, and so I've eaten a big meal for breakfast, and I've eaten a big meal for lunch, late lunch, early dinner. I'm not going to eat dinner with you, but I want to sit here and talk to you, because I know that for all of us, that's what's best. Because my kids watch me eat, they watch me eat good food, they watch me eat the occasional junk food, they watch me get nutrition in my body, and they listen to me talk it all the time. When my husband and I do this for 6 weeks, 3 times a year, they fully understand what's happening, and they know it's to better our health overall long term. And when we fast for a weekend, they also know that long term it is for our overall better health. This technique of being able to fast for starting with 12, then moving to 14, then moving to 16 hours a day, and also fasting for 72 hours out of every month in a row, has actually solved my issues with hypoglycemia, where my blood sugar levels would drop into the 40s, 50s, 60s on a daily basis, multiple times a day, which is a sign that my body is not handling my blood sugar levels well, which means that it is stressing itself out all the time. Being able to solve that after 40 years of dealing with it changed my life. It changed my hormone balances. It changed how my skin appears. It changed how I feel every day. And also, it got rid of a ton of inflammation in my body, which also allowed me to get rid of my migraines. Struggling with your blood sugar is not just about blood sugar. It is metabolic syndrome, meaning that every cell in your body is struggling with basic metabolic health. Let's fix it.